If you're using a dedicated camera to make your video content, then you're probably using it in automatic mode. This makes it quick and easy to shoot your content, but it also makes it more likely for problems to occur, like your shot suddenly getting bright or your movement looking a bit weird. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use your camera in manual mode to get better results. If you're looking to grow your business using video marketing, then make sure you subscribe and ring the bell as we release weekly videos helping you create better content and getting it found online. The manual mode setting will look different depending on what model of camera that you use, but it's usually an M symbol. When you go into this mode, you have full control over your ISO, your shutter speed, and your aperture. Don't worry, I can see the blank look on your face. I'm going to make it really easy to understand. Starting with ISO. Technically, ISO is how sensitive your camera is to light. So if your shot is too dark, increase the ISO and brighten it up. The problem is the higher you crank the ISO, the worse your image looks. So it could be that your colours look washed out, or that you've made your picture look really noisy. Let me show you an example of the same shot at two different ISOs. So this is at ISO 400, which is perfect for this shot. It's nice and clean with good colours. If I move it up to ISO 3200, you will see that the colours don't look as nice and there are all these little crackly bits which we call noise. Bonus tip, if you need to make your shot brighter, the best way to do it is to add more light, and this could be as simple as moving closer to a window. Now, before we talk about shutter speed, it'd be a good idea just to talk about how video actually works. Video is made up of a series of pictures shown to you in fast motion. The number of pictures it shows you in a second is called the frame rate, or frames per second, FPS. The two most common frame rates are 24 frames a second in America or 25 frames a second in Europe, and this is what is used on most films, and 30 frames a second, which is mostly used for TV. A quick aside, to create slow motion, you film above these frame rates, like in 50 frames per second, and then you play it back in 25 frames per second, which will make it half speed. This will become important in a moment. Now, back to shutter speed. On old SLR cameras, this was literally how long the piece of film was exposed to light, and it's the same concept in digital cameras. As a general rule, you want your shutter speed to be double your frame rate. So if you're shooting in 25 frames per second, you want your shutter speed to be 1/50th. If you're shooting in 30 frames per second, you want your shutter speed to be 1/60th. And if you're shooting in 50 frames per second, you want your shutter speed to be 1/100th. You can break these rules, but it's going to give you a different look and feel to your video. For example, if we film at 25 frames per second and have a shutter speed of 1/25th, you will see there is a lot more blurriness in the motion. This could be a good thing if you're trying to depict a dreamlike state. On the other end, if you're filming in 25 frames per second and have a shutter speed of 1/100th, this is going to get rid of a lot of motion blur. This would be good for sports, action, or fast movements. The last setting we're going to look at is aperture. Inside of your lens, you have a ring that opens and closes to change the amount of light being let in. This is called your iris. The amount of light being let in is called the aperture. Aperture is measured in f-stops like f2.8, f3.5, f5.6, and so on. The higher the number, the less light is being let into your camera. So why wouldn't you have your aperture wide open at all times? There are a couple of reasons. First of all, your aperture changes your depth of field, which is the distance in the shot that remains in focus. The lower your f-stop number, the smaller the distance. This is great if you want to blur out the background, but what if you want to have a lot of things in your shot in focus? The best thing to do is to bring down your aperture to something like f11, which will create a deeper depth of field and allow more of your shot to be in focus. What if you're outside on a bright day, your ISO is the lowest it can be, and you don't want to change your shutter speed. You can knock most lenses down to about f22, which means there's only a small amount of light being let into the camera. Just remember, this means it's going to be harder to blur out the background and separate your subject. So to recap, ISO changes how sensitive your camera is to light, but the higher the ISO, the worse your image will look. Your shutter speed controls the amount of time your camera is exposed to light, and as a general rule, you want your shutter speed to be double your frame rate. And your aperture controls how much light comes through your lens. The lower the f-stop number, the more light is allowed through, and the less distance you have in focus. Video quality is important, but sound is just as crucial. To improve your audio, watch this video here. Do you know how long your business video should be? To find out, watch this video here. And click here to subscribe to catch our weekly videos all about growing your business using video marketing.